Alright guys, it goes without saying, but I think most of us are sick and tired of the games media at large. And of course, mainstream media is pretty much trash these days, but the video game media is definitely one that has turned a lot of people off due to the fact that it is intentionally designed to target, harass, and attack the primary customer base, the player base of video games, straight white men. And again, this is not to say that there are other people who don't play video games, but there is always one demographic that the games media seems to try to vilify over everyone else. Now, there are people in the games media who have done this for years, who have participated in this anti-gamer rhetoric, Jason Schreier being one of these people, who is being propped up by Forbes contributor Paul Tassi, who we're going to talk about more later in this video, saying how Jason Schreier's Play Nice, the monstrous evolution of Blizzard, is a fascinating ride. Now, if you're not sure what this book is about, Jason Schreier had some information. He was working inside interviewing people at Blizzard during a lot of the allegations of bad behavior that went on at that company. And of course, you can see people pointing out here on the internet that the journalist knew about the Blizzard problem for years and now wants to profit off of it. And again, it has a copy of his book, Play Nice, The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment, hardcover book, which is up for pre-order on Amazon for $30. And this person here on this forum says this journalist knew about the SA stuff for years at Blizzard, refused to say a word because he was too, quote, scared to lose connection to Blizzard. Now he wants to profit off of it as a book. He could have stopped the SA back then. Victims would have been spared. I'm actually disgusted. Now, again, I don't know 100% for sure if these claims that he knew everything that went on behind the scenes are true, if he actually could have done anything to stop it. But if he did, these are some pretty nasty allegations against Jason as a human being. Now, of course, we see here from Kotaku in action on Reddit, Jason Schreier tries to shame questions of why he didn't report about SBI or the woke tone of Suicide Squad in his analysis of the game's failure, only to be reminded of his hypocrisy and then blocks the guy. Jason Schreier said, I asked 24 people who worked on the game that what went wrong, and not a single one mentioned the word sweet baby. You are chasing angry hallucinations created by grifters who make money off your rage. And of course, the thing they're talking about where he blocked somebody is this Kotaku article right here saying this is the newest trailer for Dragon's Crown, the Vanillaware developed game that will be out this year for PS3 and Vita. It features the Sorceress, one character from the game. As you can see, the Sorceress was designed by a 14-year-old boy. Perhaps game development studios could stop hiring teenagers. At least they're cheap, I guess. Again, Jason showing that anything that resembles an attractive, maybe what you could call sexualized female person, he is going to be grossed out and repulsed by. Ramblings of a Filipino Nerd says Jason Schreier is a walking case study of failing upwards and unethical hijinks, all the while posing himself as some ethical paragon. Even after all this time, he has never really changed. Now, of course, fast forward to like last week, and you saw Jason Schreier saying, go woke, go broke, oh, go to the top of the charts, in reference to Dragon Age Veilguard managing to have a 58,958 player 24-hour peak on Steam. Mr. Clan responded and said, there's no way you genuinely like this turd, to which Jason Schreier responded, I actually don't like the game very much, but I do like seeing you chuds get dunked on. Now, I have criticized games like First Descendant before, because while the game is visually stunning and attractive, and the characters look great, I didn't find the First Descendant to be very captivating as far as the story. The English dubs were pretty terrible in my opinion, and the gameplay was alright, but I just wasn't that hooked immediately like I was with Warframe. With more time, maybe I'd, be more interested in playing the game. But that's just being fair. I'm not going to say I'm going to love this game and play it just to own the wokies, But Jason here is saying, I don't even like the game, but I like seeing you chuds get dunked on. He has since deleted this post now that Dragon Age has been exposed as a massive failure, much like Jason Schreier is. Now we have Oliver here on Twitter saying the majority of modern games journalism in a nutshell, between people like this and a mainstream media run by out-of-touch boomers who think video games are a waste of time, there's almost no good places to turn to anymore for coverage. Depressing, which is sad because a lot of people used to turn to places like Kotaku years ago before they ended up being woke mouthpieces for one political agenda. And you see Smash JT pointing out, as I predicted with extreme accuracy, Kotaku parent Geo Media has made massive cuts to their dumpster fire shortly following the election, by pure coincidence, of course. And you can see on here that they have let go several people, several writers, who haven't even been there that long. And of course, one senior editor who allegedly left of her own volition. But it gets better, because we have Aftermath here, which has an article written by Luke Plunkett, who himself used to be an employee of Kotaku, and left let's just say on not so great terms. Because he actually wrote an article last year around July when he left that said, "You're solid gold, I'll see you in hell." And this is only slightly tongue-in-cheek, because if you go through this article here, he lashes out heavily at Geo Media, at the management of Kotaku, at the people who ran this site, saying that they basically didn't have a clue in hell what they were doing. So this article that he put out, I believe yesterday, that says Geo Media, a network that owns websites but also knows nothing about running websites, him again attacking his former employer, has made further cuts at the already beleaguered Kotaku, with a number of writers announcing today that they had been laid off. Willow Rowe and Moses Tavares, two writers who only joined the site earlier this year, were abruptly laid off by management this afternoon. Stuttering Craig says Kotaku fired its, quote, queer games critic and a guy whose last article on the site is about how he wants to end people's lives who voted for Trump, and labeled them fascist. Maybe that had something to do with them letting him go, Luke. Maybe that was it. Then, of course, you also see Luke writing, also announcing their departure from Kotaku today, albeit on their own terms, was senior editor Alyssa Mercante, who posted that after 2 years at the site, she was moving on. And of course, we have talked about Alyssa potentially landing a job at Sweet Baby Inc. or Compulsion Studios. One or the other, we will see shortly which one of these shakes out. But then, of course, we have Paul Tassi joining the fray, somebody who's been around a long time, mostly at Forbes. I think he's actually been at Forbes for going on 10 years or more. Paul Tassi says, "This idea of Kotaku as some big games journalism boogeyman at this point is weird. The site has been cut to what, like 4 full-time people constantly dealing with clueless private equity management? Just move on." So again, Paul doesn't like that sites like Kotaku have people like Alyssa Mercante who make a mess for the company and would rather blame management or the ownership than the people at the company themselves who are intentionally provoking all the backlash. Smash JT responded and said, "Paul, the people that work there are terrible human beings, attacking gamers constantly and supporting editors that go after people in their private life for daring to have said opinions. They have made their bed, now lay in it, zero sympathy." Paul responds and said, "Aren't you the guy who made like 500 videos about Alyssa?" Again, defending Alyssa Mercante, which is hilarious because Paul Tassi's co-worker, his fellow journalist at Forbes, Eric Kane, got into a bit of a spat with Alyssa Mercante not too long ago. So again, not everybody is enamored with Alyssa, but Paul seems to be simping for her. And there's some very good reason for this. Going all the way back to 2014, Paul Tassi was on here discussing Gamergate and essentially how, once again, straight white men are just evil bigots. And again, that's just me summarizing the article. It's very long. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You can go back in time and read it for yourself. But Paul has always been this way. Even this year, he recently, back on June of this year, was defending Star Wars The Acolyte, claiming that it was being review bombed due to, again, toxic, misogynistic, bigot viewers. He said viewers have now mobilized a fleet of TIE bombers to obliterate user scores of The Acolyte wherever possible, namely on Rotten Tomatoes. He says, "I'm not going to entertain a debate that is not review bombing. A 15% score is barely more than a third of the last most controversial Disney Star Wars project, The Last Jedi." He would then go on to say that it was about a clip from star Amanda Stenberg about making white people cry that was shared tens of thousands of times online, taken out of context from an interview years earlier about her film The Hate You Give. Showrunner Leslie Headland has starred in many YouTube thumbnails lambasting the woke nature of the series, but also it's allegedly breaking canon. But it was breaking canon. That's the thing. Paul doesn't care. Paul even was defending Starfield and claiming that that game was being review bombed, despite the fact that besides the pronouns, there was a fair amount of criticism levied at Starfield, and the game now has a pretty much non-existent player base, whether you like the game or not. Paul simply went out of his way to defend this game. For reasons, I guess, I don't even know why he'd go out of his way to defend this game. But again, going back to like 2014, you had Forbes contributor Paul Tassi shitting all over gamers for getting annoyed by Sarkeesian's antics. Gamers need to understand that disagreement is not a declaration of war, and they need to grow the hell up. And again, I believe this is a quote taken from a Paul Tassi article. So now today, you have Paul Tassi saying this, defending Kotaku, defending Aftermath, saying, yeah, blocking people just seems pointless now, with one person saying, I'm still curious if you're ever planning on responding to Legacy Killer HD's video, but I guess that's an admission that there's not much to respond to. Paul says, what is this referring to? And of course, it has to do with a video where Legacy Killa pointed out that Forbes was trashing his Dragon Age Veilguard criticisms and argued that Hogwarts Legacy was never hated on. Paul says, I'm not falling into this hole with these guys again. It was like 4 tweets. So again, Paul likes to fling mud but doesn't want to respond to it. Got called out by Michael over at Legacy Killa, says, thanks Paul, I will. You twisted what I originally said about gaming discourse into an argument I wasn't making and then acted disingenuous about how games media handled Hogwarts. Then chose not to respond when I brought up ideological bias in this medium that has hurt trust. And the thing is, Paul is also the same guy that if you go back to like what I was talking about with First Descendant, my criticism about First Descendant is not because the characters are attractive and the costumes are too skimpy. I just didn't find the game that interesting. But you had Paul here defending the supposed Metacritic response to Dragon Age review bombing versus him tweeting this out, that the First Descendant's Summer Viessa is the final shape for the, quote, sexy costumes crowd, nothing left, just nudity, just a naked chick walking around with guns, mission accomplished. And apparently, something about that bothers Paul. So again, I'm going to leave it right there, guys. Let me know what you think about all this. I think the games media is toast. By the end of this year, I would love to see half these places shut down, replaced by people who actually care. But I'm going to leave it right there. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.